but we do have a quorum.
So why don't we call the October 12th meeting of the Arts Committee to order? And the first item of business is approval of the minutes of the September 17th meeting.
Anybody have one? This is Christina. I did have one change. Sorry, my video is not cooperating today, so I'm just a black screen.
Okay.
In item number 2, this is very small. My name is spelled wrong. I don't know how important that is to know that it's me. It's as Cooper instead of Koopman.
Oops, sorry about that, Christina. I'll get it changed.
No worries. It doesn't offend me or anything. I just didn't know if it had to be updated.
Yeah, we should probably get that changed. I apologize.
No problem.
Would someone like to make a motion to approve the minutes?
I will make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, Mike moves. We need a second.
This is Katie. I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion carries. So the next item of business is referral from the Plan Commission for the window art element at the Middleton Center Phase 3.
Yep, and this was on your agenda last month as well. And I know that the commissioners felt that what was being proposed by T-Wall looked more like commercial signage than it did like art. And so T-Wall has proposed some different renderings here, which I'm sharing on my screen. They're like stock images, I believe, of people shopping or walking. Jake Buns is on the line from T-Wall and can answer any questions that you may have. I will share the feedback that I received from Meg McCombs in advance of the meeting. She thought that this was too corporate and doesn't look like art, looks more like signage still, and that she would be willing to try to connect T-Wall with some artists that might be able to, you know, put together some ideas if they would be open and willing to consider that.
Anyone else can comment?
Can I ask, is this a decal or would this be etched into the glass? What would this consist of?
It's
Maybe
proposed.
a
Go ahead.
vinyl. Yeah, sorry, cut you off there, Abby. But it would be a vinyl application to the window. And yeah, we're just kind of looking for feedback here. I mean, the building I think will be ready sometime in June, and that's when we'll have to start putting these on the windows. But if you guys could give us your feedback and what you think you would like to see, we'd be happy to move forward from there.
So this is the technique, you said it's vinyl, like one color vinyl on a window?
Yeah, and the idea was just to have it a frost color, so it
Okay.
kind of blended in. If I remember correctly, Abby, maybe you can back me up on this, and it was a while ago, but the Plan Commission said there was a little bit of back and forth, but a few of the members said they kind of wanted it to blend in, not necessarily pop off the windows. So that's kind of why we stuck with this frost grayish color.
I don't remember that, but I do remember, and this I've had to jog my memory on since the last Arts Committee meeting too, that T-Wall was proposing vinyl. We were talking about initially about something different that would be inlaid or inset into the window that would be like a laser cut steel or something really cool and artistic. What happened is during the time that everything was shut down, we didn't have any city meetings happening. T-Wall wanted to pull a building permit, and so they basically came to the Plan Commission and they said, will you just support the idea of some kind of vinyl application on a window and let the Arts Committee decide, what it looks like later so that we can go ahead and pull a building permit? And the Plan Commission agreed to that. So we don't really at this point, we can't, the Arts Committee can't say, we really want it to be etched in the window, or we really prefer this application without approval from T-Wall, but I think the Arts Committee still gets to decide what the actual design itself looks like.
I think this is a good start. To me, I feel like they're in an airport. I mean, that one on the right has luggage. I don't know, it has an airport feel to me.
Maybe we could have some more abstract figures. Because it looks too business-like. I agree.
Would it be worthwhile having Megan follow up to recommend Meg McCombs to follow up to recommend artists who possibly could connect with the developers to come up with something more artistic?
Yeah, I'd be happy to look into that if Megan can email me with names or numbers, emails. I can look into it.
Okay. I don't know if you know, familiar with Meg, she's a graphic artist.
Okay, perfect.
What we could also do is you all could, if you have any ideas for any artists, you could just send them to me and I can compile them in a list and send them over to Jake, including Meg's suggested artists.
Okay. And then we would have to see a final design? Do we have to see preliminary designs, or do we have a subcommittee to work with Jake on this? We don't.
We haven't developed one.
And do you think that's something Meg McCombs might be willing to do?
Yes, she offered that in her email.
Okay. So maybe I guess I would make a motion that we have Meg work with Jake to come up with an idea that could then be presented to the Arts Committee.
Okay.
Does anybody else want to jump in on that? Okay. I can help too. So you could say Meg and I'll help staff it.
Okay.
Okay.
Anybody want to second my motion?
Oh, it's Katie. I will second that. That sounds good.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, does that sound okay to you, Jake?
Yeah, we can. That sounds great. We'll get something good in front of you guys next time.
Okay, terrific.
Thanks,
Awesome.
Jake.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. So the next item, I guess, for us is Memorandum of Understanding with Roman Candle for Love Your Neighbor mural.
Yep, and the owner of Roman Candle, Brewer Stouffer, is on the line. Meg, Christina, and Megan Mackey put a lot of time and effort into developing an MOU for expectations for the mural project. And then Brewer came in and made some suggested changes. I did hear from both Megan and Meg to state that they didn't have any concerns with the changes that Brewer was recommending. So what we're asking is for the Arts Committee to approve this tonight. If I'm not sure if this has to go to the City Council or not, but if it does, I'll get it on the next agenda, or if this is just something the mayor will be willing to sign off on administratively.
Do you have any comments about the changes, Abby?
The one thing I would highlight is the section about removal of the mural. So I think initially we had talked about a 5-year term, and what Brewer's proposing, and I think this is a pretty smart way to go about it, is that if the Roman Candle desires to have the mural removed prior to the 5-year time period, they would repay the city a prorated amount. And so you all can look at this and see if you think this, makes sense from the city's standpoint. But, before the first anniversary, if it goes up and 3 months later he hates it and wants it down, he would repay the city for the full amount. After the first anniversary, before the second, 3,000. After the second, before the third, 1,000. And then after that, 500.
Seems reasonable to me.
Yeah, I agree. Seems reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
And we
Cool
tried
idea.
to build in a little bit of time. I can't remember the area where we had looked at this. Oh, it's a 90-day period. So if the mural needs maintenance, there would be a 90-day period of time from the time that Brewer gives us a heads up, hey, you need to maintain the mural, until we would have to actually get the work done. And that's just to build in like the city process, because everything takes longer when we have to get like approval of contracts and get 3 quotes and all of that. So we did a 90-day period for that. But other than that, I don't know. I think it's a good document. Brewer, I don't know if you have anything to add.
You did an amazing job of presenting it, Abby. Thanks so much. We're super, super excited about being a part of this. And I love the art renderings. I don't know if you guys are going to be looking at those later, but they're super cool. What a great thing you're doing. And we're just thrilled to be a part of it. So I appreciate the way you queued it up, Abby. And if you guys find my comments reasonable, we hadn't really talked about any timeline initially. So this has all been in the last couple of business days. We've been going back and forth, and I think the draft, I've heard from Meg and Megan, and they thought it looked pretty good too. So if you guys like it, I think we're there. We're excited.
Yeah, and Brewer,
Sorry you can't see me. I found out during the Zoom era that my camera on my 6-year-old laptop doesn't work. So I'm the guy that always just has his name up there. Anyway, okay.
Brewer, the design's the next item on the agenda. I just ordered them like this because I was like, let's get the technical stuff out of the way and then go on to the fun part.
Well, and one thing I put in the document that, again, just maybe reflect this in the minutes. I don't think you're making an agreement with the Roman candle. You're making it with candle holder, which is a separate sort of entity that owns the building. I just think that's an important notion. Like, for instance, you know, again, if for some reason the Roman candle changed its concept and we started selling burgers and called ourselves something else, the deal is with the building owner, not the entity. Does that make sense? And I put that in the notes.
Yep, that's a good point. We'll get
but
that
maybe
changed.
As you reflect the minutes, rather than say like Roman candle, maybe refer to it either by my name as the building owner or Candle Holder LLC. But like in the agenda, I noticed it said Roman candle, which I think is great. So we all know what we're talking about. But anyway, okay, I'll go on.
Makes sense. Thanks, Brewer.
Does someone want to make a motion to approve the amended MOU?
I'll make a motion to approve.
So Michelle moves.
This is Christina. I'll second.
Christina seconds. Katie seconds. All in favor say aye.
I think that was Christina.
Oh, Christina. Okay, sorry. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Great. Now to the fun part.
Oh, that's my dog. He's excited too, apparently.
That's great.
So, studio design selection for Love Your Neighbor mural.
Yep, and I do have some feedback to provide from the CDA. They met Thursday of last week, and I just finished up their minutes just in time to kind of describe where they were going with this. Also, while I pull those up, I just wanted to let you know that I also put this on our Plan Commission agenda for tomorrow night. The reason for that is Plan Commission does design review of all commercial building modifications. And I just included a note in the packet to state we were recommending whatever the Arts Committee decides to recommend tonight. It's just when we have this multi-committee approval process, it's really hard to condense it down and get things done quickly. So I went ahead and just put it on that agenda so we could get this done. And then see how quickly my computer will work for me here so I can pull up the CDA comments. Actually, I might have them saved on my, oh, here we go. So what the CDA ultimately recommended is they just wanted to share their feedback with the Arts Committee, but they wanted the Arts Committee to decide, you know, which of the 3 concepts to work with. This is the feedback that the CDA gave. One committee member recommended removing number 3 from consideration because he was concerned that it's going to be too hard for someone to read when they're traveling fast. And he really liked options 1 and option 2. And then I noted that our public works director, Sean Stowski, I reached out to him, and this is the only one that he raised any concerns about. He didn't go as far as saying like, we can't do it, but he was like, I don't know, that one's gonna be kind of hard to read for traffic. Another CDA member specifically liked one, and actually that was two CDA members that weighed in and said they prefer one. Another CDA member said that they were concerned that the script on this concept might look like Christmassy, and they thought, they wanted to make sure that the mural was appropriate year round. Another CDA member said that they thought there would be more graphic elements rather than just text. She was like, oh, it kind of looks like a sign and not a mural. And another committee member agreed with that, but then I pointed out that that was kind of the agreement when we went with the lowest cost option with the artists, because they basically said for our budget, they could really mostly do text and very little in the way of graphics. There was a representative from the Downtown Middleton Business Association present, and she noted that they're very excited about the theme, but they thought that these little atomic starburst elements tied the mural too directly to the Roman candle, and they would prefer that the graphic was more related to the downtown in general. And then another CDA member came in and said, I like number one the best, this one, and I don't really have a problem with the starburst because the Roman Candle or Candle Holder LLC is willing to let us use the site of their building, and so they think that it's appropriate to kind of give them a nod with a portion of the design. And then the DMBA representative came back and said, well, I wonder if any of downtown Middleton's branding could also be incorporated, maybe in terms of the color palette, or some component of the Downtown Middleton Business Association's logo. And then another CDA member agreed with that and said that some of that imagery might pull people further into the downtown instead of just making it look more like it belongs to one business. And then they just basically were like, well, here's our feedback and let's give it to the arts committee and let them decide what to do. So that's where we are.
Anyway, go ahead, sorry.
Sorry, I remembered one more thing, that Meg McCombs also sent her thoughts, and she asked that I share them, and she was really involved with the project from the get-go, and even I think is the one that decided to work with this studio and to use this building. So I want to make sure I share her comments. Let's see. Oh shoot, where did they go? Okay, so she said visually she's most drawn to number 2 or number 3. 3 is more intricate, but it's also harder to read. If the committee votes for number 3, she would suggest asking the artist to tweak the design a bit to make it easier to read. It could be something as simple as swapping the colors so that love is darker and your neighbor is lighter, or changing the font style that love is in so it doesn't have extra inlays. She said maybe a slightly lighter weight on the sans serif would be easier to read as well. In terms of the colors, personally, she is not a fan of the pink. Could we have them try the pink? Have them try the pink in the golden yellow. Try to stick to the Middleton colors a bit more. So that was her feedback.
I like number 2. I like the starburst. I like that it has a little bit more graphic element than number 1, or more graphic feel, I think. I'm not a fan of number 3. And number 1 would be my second choice. And I agree on the pink and the colors, that it should reflect Middleton more, because we're trying to draw people into Middleton. I don't know what the Downtown Business Association's logo looks like, so I don't know like what elements we could draw in from that, but I like that idea.
This is their logo here.
Would that raise the price, incorporating that?
I'm sure it would.
What if we used those same colors?
We'd have to ask them to redesign it with different colors. Should we just pick a specific design, 1, 2, or 3, and then ask the artists if they can change the colors of our choice, of our design choice? Or is that going to set the project back too far? No?
I would think that that's something we could approve administratively.
Okay, okay. So I guess the first thing we have to do is decide which design we like the best.
So I favor design 1, mainly for the readability. If you're driving by, you can read it. I think number 2 is very illustrative, and I love the script typeface, but I don't know, you know, it's kind of in that Roman candle aesthetic. And I also, the Christmas thing, that I see that now, and that kind of bugs me. That wasn't an issue before. I think with number 1, if you were to take the downtown Middleton logo, I think if you could, that would fit flush right underneath the last letter of BOR, HBOR, like underneath there, small.
And what about the colors, Mike?
The colors don't bother me because I think it works with the building. And then I think once you put the downtown Middleton or the word Middleton there, it'll detach it from being just Roman candle specific, which doesn't bother me anyway. But, you know, I think that little treatment might help. So I would say maybe next steps where if they can add that, then we see what happens and then maybe discuss the colors.
Can I jump in here? Am I allowed to comment?
Yeah, of course.
Love all your comments. Really, there's a lot of really great ones. And I hadn't thought about the logo, but that is my daughter who's doing a virtual ballet is asking for a glass of water. Sorry. I'll get her a glass of water in a second. But so I love the even if it's maybe not the logo in its exact treatment, getting some of those buildings on there somehow, maybe like giving them the license to be inspired by the logo and add some of that in the corner is a great idea. I like that idea a lot, especially after seeing the logo. My personal favorite is number 1 for readability. I've driven past the Beltline a bunch of times and I keep thinking about that. Like you can see this from the Beltline heading north or south. And number 2 is my second favorite. I agree with all the comments on number 3 is too busy, but it makes me almost wonder if they were going for something and they'd be willing to give one more rendering. I don't know. Are there certain draft considerations that they said like they do 2 revisions? I know that's pretty common in contracts like this.
Yes, they are willing to make, I think, up to 3 revisions
Okay.
within the cost estimate they provided.
So I'll go back on mute and listen. But again, thank you all for letting me be part of this discussion. I really like 1 and 2. I'd be fine with them modified in their existing form or whatever. And it sounds like the committee agrees with that in general too. So that's great. Okay, mute.
Can I jump in here? And also, this is Christina. Sorry, my camera not working. I agree with basically everything Mike said. I really enjoy number 1. I think it's more readable. I like number 2. I'm not against it. But number 1, I feel like is more readable, slightly more interesting. My teeny tiniest hesitation with that is the starburst in love. The single starburst like that, originally that phrase, we had concerns about it sounding biblical. Does that 1 star like strike anyone else as slightly biblical? If we could change the size or add another star or something around that. I know there's the big one on the end, but just the single star above love also kind of brings in the biblical sense.
I see what you mean. So it needs more of those playful little almost flower-like star-dusty things that are off the big one, or maybe it should go diagonally off the other corner.
I mean, we can totally throw that to the artist and see what they say. Just like one other star next to the one that's there, just so it's not like one single lone star, I think would help take it away from that biblical on the word love feeling.
No, I see that. That's a good point. I think it looks like they added the starburst to make up for the negative space between the letters.
Yeah, and that one can totally stay there. I like it. I have no concerns about the Roman candle leaning branding. I take that critique, but to me, that's not something that I'm concerned with. I don't know about the rest of the committee, but that part of it is not a huge concern of mine.
How would you feel if the text was in italics instead of just bold like that?
I wonder if you lose what's so clear and concise about it then. I kind of like that this is bold but not plain, if that makes any sense. This is obviously a very personal opinion discussion, but coming from a typography background and fonts were part of my study, I'm more of a fan of this than the script, but that's just a very personal background.
No, I like this too. More than the script, I just wondered if it would look less like signage if it was just leaning a little bit, you know, now I've lost the word, but anyway.
That's a good point, though. That makes sense. That if it's a little bit more dressed up, it takes it away from signage,
Right,
perhaps.
right. Should we just forward these comments to the artists and then let them decide? So have we decided that we want number 1, but with the modifications we've discussed, which we can forward to the artists and have them send us something back?
Maybe they could incorporate 1 and 2 together somehow. You know, more graphic images from number 2 and the font from number 1 to offset this starburst.
Well, I was thinking that too. They're like, if they could stick some of the little dots and little flowery things over on the left side of number 1, it would make that one starburst more playful.
How difficult would it be to incorporate maybe the gables from the logo, from the buildings in the logo somehow into the design?
Yeah, I was wondering if just like if you took the lettering off that logo and just used like the top half of the buildings kind of across the bottom, not the whole bottom, but like kind of where Mike said, just like that hint of that logo. Or even the whole logo. I like Mike's idea a lot.
And do you think some of those colors should be incorporated into the rest of it?
No, I think it would stand out nicely against the colors that exist.
Okay.
And like, I think everybody agrees that the starbursts, to me, they don't bother me at all, but they echo the Roman candle.
Yeah, I don't see it as being Christmassy, really.
That was my comment in CDA, and I think for me it was the script. And then like somehow the number of starbursts reminded me of snow, and so then I couldn't get it out of my head. And I've now stuck it into Mike's head there too. He's like,
yeah, that's all I see now.
You're welcome. Sorry.
So what should we tell the artists?
So what I have typed up here is you like number 1, but you want some modifications. For example, you don't just want the lone starburst, maybe the idea of having, you know, some additional of these elements included on number 1. And then also add some hint of the DMBA logo to the design and leave it up to their discretion. What I wasn't clear on is if you wanted the colors to be modified at all.
You mean of the whole mural?
Yeah, because I think somebody suggested that you could take some of the colors out of this logo and then include them into here somehow, but I don't know if that was direction or if that was just an idea from a committee member.
I think someone's,
Are they limiting this on number of colors when they, in the bid?
I'm sure that their budget is impacted by the number of colors. I'm sure that it would go up if we were like, hey, every single one of these needs to be a different color, every letter.
but I do like the idea of incorporating just the imagery without the text of the logo, maybe under the BOR as Mike suggested.
Okay. I can convey that to them.
I think if you just say, you know, we're interested in maybe incorporating part of this DMBA logo, let them maybe see what they come back with before we start dictating font color and things.
Okay.
That would be my, you know, suggestion, but totally up to the group here.
Yeah, I
Do you
agree.
all want me to schedule you a special meeting for like as soon as we get this back from them so you can quickly look at it and approve it and keep it moving?
I think that's a good idea.
If we don't want to add colors, what if it's just like a white outline of the buildings? Or white type for the downtown Middleton? And then maybe one version it's without that lone starburst or in the L, like with and without.
Sure, yeah, let's see what they come back with.
That's a good idea. Okay, I will get all this info to them and hopefully they can mock up some changes pretty quick.
Great. So our next item is Wisconsin Film Festival brainstorming session for outdoor locations.
Abby, do you want to take this or do you want me to?
You can take it, Katie.
So my friend and I were running the other day, and she's the head of the Wisconsin Film Festival. And she was saying that they're planning for 2021 now. And she was wondering if I thought that kind of an outdoor drive-in theater kind of a thing, if I thought that would be something people would want to do. And I said, of course, I feel like everybody's looking for creative new ways of getting out of the house and being safe. And they were looking for locations in Madison where there were big parking lots and that they could use a large screen where people could park socially distanced and watch a movie from the festival. And I said, well, you know, how about Middleton? What about ETC? We've got this fabulous, you know, electronic theater controls. That's just what they do. And maybe it would be perfect. And then I thought of the airport and making it a cool place to go and see a movie during the festival to create some goodwill for the airport. And then we just started brainstorming and we ran past Abby. And so then I sent her an email afterward, and I just thought it would be something that you guys might want to know about and to see if there were any big ideas that we could help bring the arts, if you will, in the form of the film festival into Middleton.
I'm not sure doing it on the airport is a good idea, but you could do it next to the airport in Penny Klein Park there.
Yeah. I mean, I thought that if we made that area someplace that was desirable and more approachable for everyone, that it wouldn't seem like such a, I'm just sort of blending some issues, if you will. Not everybody might know that the airport's been kind of a hot button issue. And so if we can make that area a place where families want to go, this could maybe help that out.
Because there is lots of parking. I mean, I go there every day to walk my dog in the dog park there. There's lots of parking there. There's lots of green space where people could spread out on the lawn or whatever. If there's a way to get a screen there and a projector there, I think it's a great idea.
I think it might even, oh, go ahead, Mike.
Love the idea. I think it's great.
I think it might even be possible, like depending on which movies are selected, that you could sort of try to tie like some themes of the movies to the location. So if there was like something conservation or environmental related, having it at Penny Klein would make sense. I think if there's anything we can do to get it to come to Middleton and have some of the locations in Middleton, we should try to do it, because I love the film festival, and I just think it would be really cool for Middleton to be involved.
Yeah, and I don't think it's too big of a stretch for people to come out here. You know, it started on campus, but now it's at different theaters, and we're just up University Avenues. I don't think it's that big a deal for folks to come off campus to see a movie. It's getting bigger, the festival in itself, so maybe it's a natural.
And Stonehorse Green's probably too small, I would guess. I mean, if you use the side of the Village Green as a place to put a screen, that space may not be big enough. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a good thought, though. And so they used to have the festival in April, and they've moved it to mid-May, hoping that the weather would be a little bit better. But, you know, May can also be really a dicey time. And so I like the idea of people being able to sit in a car and not having to be so dependent on nice weather for it to be a success. So, you know, but I think they're open to any and all ideas. And not only are they wanting places to watch these movies, they're wanting companies to help donate to the film festival. And so I thought that maybe Gilson and ETC would be perfect.
You know, another place is the high school parking lot.
Yeah, Abby had suggested that, and I think that's wonderful.
And actually a really cool location, but I don't know like how much work it would take to get it ready, would be the quarry. It's not in the city, it's actually in the town. It's like right on Pleasant View Road and Highway 14. But like when you drive in there, it's like a big flat open space, and that rock wall, if you could like put, I don't know if you could put a screen there, like I think that would be fun for people to go in there and like be in that location.
I've never seen that. I'll have to check it out.
I've never been in there either.
I like that idea too, Abby, and I like the idea of film festival. That's something that is not just, we focus a lot just on fine art and visual art, and I think this will be good for the committee to focus on something different.
I was just trying to.
Should we? Sorry, Christina, go ahead.
Sorry. The biggest parking lot I can think of is Costco, and I don't know, because it's not obviously like a locally owned business, but like that's the biggest parking lot I think I've ever been in, aside from like state fairs. So maybe Costco hit you up for something that could be. But I love the idea of the film festival in Middleton. I think it's a great idea.
That's a good idea for a parking lot. I hadn't thought of that one.
Yeah, and they may be willing to sponsor, and they close, you know, on like Sundays. I think they close at 6. So they might close early enough that you could schedule something after. That's a good idea.
Awesome. Well, keep the ideas coming, I guess. And I will just let Kelly know that we are, her name is Kelly Conway, not to be confused. Kelly Conway Sweet. And she's a French film history professor. But she's in charge, and we'll just keep ideas coming her way.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. So the next item, I guess, for us is update on plaque installation.
Yep, and I put that on the agenda in the hopes that I would have time to run over to the 2 locations today and see if the plaques are up, and I didn't get a chance with all my other meetings and stuff. So I'm just gonna keep that on the agenda for next time, but I'm hoping to go get a snapshot of the locations where the plaques are installed before the next meeting.
So should we go into number 6, update on virtual creative Middleton after hours?
Sure. Do you want to give that update, Rob?
Well, I don't know, most of you probably knew about it. Rhiannon Gurley wanted to do this online, showcasing artists in Middleton. She chose me to be the first object of her presentations. I don't know how many of you actually tried to tune in, but there was a technical glitch. In other words, once you clicked on the link, it asked for a password, which she had not provided. I discovered that by scrolling down, on her announcement, I think it was on Facebook, where it says see more. If I clicked on that link, then I could get in. And the only other person that I know of that got in was my wife, Leah, because she came running upstairs. How can I get in? How can I get in? So I told her what I did. So I think she and I were the only ones that were there because everybody else would have needed a password. So I don't know what Rhiannon's next step it will be.
I didn't try to log on because I was at a Napa Auto Parts neighborhood meeting that night. Your thing sounded way more fun, by the way. So did she mention if she's going to try to reschedule it, or?
I haven't heard that. I still think she's looking for some sort of approval from the Arts Committee, but I tried to make it clear to her that, the Arts Committee wouldn't have any control over this, and that she was free to do it independent of the Arts Committee, but that I was still willing to, to be the person that she wanted to showcase if that's what she wanted to do. But I haven't heard anything more about her trying to do it again.
Okay.
Should we go on to report back on Dama mural, Invisible Work, Invisible Earth installation?
Sure. It's installed and the scaffolding is down and it looks incredible. Rob sent me a picture I'm going to pull up here for you all to see in case you haven't had a chance to go look at it. We also have an established relationship with a wonderful scaffolding company that, according to Dama, provided the best scaffolding that they have ever worked on. And so we have a lead for future, when we have to do the biannual maintenance with the UV coating, we have a lead with them. And then we also have an account set up with the city so that we don't have to like prepay, go through like the whole contractual arrangement. Our finance director went ahead and set up an account for us, so it'll be a little easier for us in the future. And this is a photograph that Rob took that looks very similar to what the rendering looks like. So it's really pretty amazing how it turned out.
That looks so cool.
I specifically had to go out there in morning light. I wanted the eastern light shining on the building, so I timed it when the weather was good and the light, and I went out there in the morning.
Yeah, I went in the afternoon, so the picture that's on the city's Facebook, like this whole section is a lot darker and
Right.
It doesn't look nearly this good. So I really appreciate you doing that, Rob.
My pleasure.
That's amazing. Did you have to stand in the middle of the road to get that shot, or could you be someplace safe and take it?
No, I took my 18-200 zoom and just zoomed to fit.
Oh,
I was standing
nice.
actually just this side of those that greenery there.
It's awesome.
There is a little bit of doctoring in, so I don't use Photoshop, but something similar
And the colors.
in the colors, yeah.
Mm.
Oh, and
So good.
I did another photographer's trick. You might notice that the sky is a little bit darker. I have a neutral density filter that it only shades the light in the upper half of the image, so it makes the sky a little bit darker. So that's you don't see it because it's right next to the lens, so it's out of focus. But
But
I
it
used
helps
all-
the
I
mural
used all
stand
the-
out.
I used all the tricks that I could
Very nice.
come up with on the spur of the moment.
Looks great.
Yeah, it does.
So should we go up to update on maintenance of current projects?
Sure. I guess the big one is Self-Made Man. So as you know, Megan Mackey had brought our attention to some bullet holes that exist in the sculpture, and they've been there for a couple months, and we don't know how they got there. We don't have any video, but they're there and they need work. And then in addition to the bullet holes, the sculpture needs its biannual waxing and cleaning. And then there's also some litter around the rocks, which is the responsibility of the developer. So I reached out to the developer, and they were like, well, we don't have any records of who did the waxing in the past because we had an employee who left, but why don't you give us some ideas for, who could do this kind of work, and we'll pay for the cost of the waxing. But then per the agreement that the city had initially entered into with Bob Bletner, we are responsible for maintenance beyond just normal maintenance. So it's our responsibility to cover the cost of the bullet holes. Our finance director reached out to our property insurance company. They are willing to cover the cost. They said that this is limited to, I think, $10,000. I don't know. I don't have a cost estimate yet from an art conservator, but Megan Mackey sent me a whole long list of names. But then she had two that she specifically recommended based on her contact with the Kohler Foundation that she works for. So I reached out to that first one, and they are in Kansas through the end of the year, and they can't do the work even though they have a house in Madison. They wouldn't be able to do it until next year. And so then I reached out to the second contact on the list, and her name is Cricket Harbeck, and she's in Milwaukee, and she thinks she can do it. And I've been on the phone with her a couple separate times. She seems highly qualified to do the work. I would have no concerns whatsoever. She's very detail oriented. She needs exact specifics on the height, and she's trying to determine what the best way to get up to the sculpture would be. She probably needs a bucket truck to get there, because otherwise we would have to take all of the boulders out in order for her to have a flat surface on which to install scaffolding. So the bucket truck seems like the best option. I'm going to work with our city forester and see if he would be willing to be on site with her and help her out for a day or two, or maybe 2 half days, she thinks. She would not feel comfortable staying in a hotel overnight during COVID. So her plan would be to drive here from Milwaukee, work on it for half a day. Then she would drive back and then come back the following day. And it's a 2-day process because she would be using a wax that Megan Mackey recommended also. They both had the same recommendation, and it would need to harden before she could paint it. She also suggested that the regular maintenance should happen at the same time. So she is going to include in her cost estimate the cost for the regular maintenance, and then I'm going to see if Bob Bletner would be willing to cover those additional costs. Right now, the ball's in my court because I need to go out there and measure the sculpture. I don't know why when we first accepted it, we don't have any measurements of it. So I need to go out and do that before she can finalize her cost estimate. But other than that, she seems to be on track to have something for me pretty quick.
Is that one of those other duties as assigned things in your job description, Abby?
Yeah, yep. Pick up trash in the conservancy when I'm out running, pull weeds in the terraces in downtown when I notice them, and measure sculptures. Keeps life interesting. And then the other item on here, I removed quadrants because that's done. We moved that off to the done list, and quadrants is fully restored and it's back on site. But the storm drain murals were repainted on Friday by Donna. They just painted over both of them. They didn't have to worry about scraping any chipped paint or anything off. They were able to just simply paint over what was there. They did not do any work on the one that's on Frank Lloyd Wright because that one's still in really quite good shape. So that might be something we need to look at next year. But for this year, they got the one done at Parmenter and Lee, and the one at Parmenter and Hubbard, where the Grace Coffee Shop is going to be opening soon. And I did put photographs of that on the city's Facebook page if you wanted to take a look.
Anyone have any comments about the items that Abby has mentioned, especially with respect to Self-Made Man? So then we can go on. Sorry.
No, sorry, this is Christina. I just said I don't have any concerns, but Abby, thanks for all your work on those items.
Oh yeah, no problem.
We appreciate it. How about the percent for arts program discussion? I know we have another meeting on Friday.
Yeah, so we had our first meeting. I'm sure there are things that I need to follow up on from that meeting, but I can't immediately remember what they are. I know Christina had provided us with some documents from Green Bay that we were all going to be looking into. What else? Who can help me with my failing memory right now?
I was interested that there were examples from Santa Rosa, California, but which was the home of Charles Schultz, who wrote the Peanuts cartoons.
Oh, cool.
So there are a lot of Peanuts sculptures in Santa Rosa. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Be fun to see.
But anyway, I think that we got the Green Bay ordinance, and I guess we're going to discuss that in our next meeting.
And Abby, didn't we decide that we would take the developer would provide 0.5% of any TIF funds that they received, and it could come out of the TIF funds, correct? And that the city would match the 0.5% to come up with the one. Am I saying that wrong?
No, I don't think so. I think you're right. I think we were talking about a full percent of a TIF request, but not of the assessed final valuation. I think it was a full percent of a TIF request, and then it was going to be developer financed TIF assistance. But what I can't remember is who financed. So if half of it is coming from the developer, meaning they're borrowing the money and then the TIF increment is paying them back over the life of the agreement, who's paying for the other half?
There was some sort of talk about a match from the city, and I'm not exactly remembering how that went. Christina, do you have any, or Michelle, do you guys have any memory of how that was talked out?
Yeah, we were kind of discussing that if a developer is going to receive TIF funding, that they would have to come up with 0.5% on their own. And then the TIF would be, our matching 0.5 of that percent would be paid through the TIF. So that 1/2 of it is fully funded by the developer. We will fund the other 1/2 as a match via TIF funds, I think.
Okay.
So they're still responsible for coming up with something for this project. And we kind of, Abby, you had some numbers of past TIF financed projects.
Oh yeah.
And it kind of averaged out to what would roughly be ish 10,000 per developer ish. That's like a very generalized thing, but that was, so there were 3 projects in 2019. So that would be 3 $10,000 projects we could take on, kind of thing, something like that.
Yeah, and I remember
did we
the
talk
thing
about
I
a
said
max?
A max?
Did we say that we would tell the developer that there was a max that they had to come up with? It was like a 1.5%, but it would max out at a certain, like 50,000 or something.
Yeah, I think we brought that up because someone was worried that developers would like freak out and pull the plug on development if they thought they had to put up 500 grand for an art project. So that was, I think, when we were talking about the developer funding the full 1%. And so we were talking about either doing a 50/50 match or putting a cap on it, on that 1% that they'd be responsible for, just as like a safety measure for the developer.
And Abby, I remember you were concerned that we would generate too much money each year and have trouble as a committee deciding how to spend it.
I was worried like about managing that amount of money because like, so for 2019, I think it equaled like 70 grand. And I was thinking that 70 grand is probably about right for what we would be able to manage. I was just thinking like more from like a staff perspective, you know, putting out the RFP and collecting the responses and then being on site to watch the project to make sure it's installed correctly and reporting back and contracts and, you know, those kinds of things. Because, you know, if you look at like the city of Madison, they have a full-time arts administrator. And I'm guessing that their annual budget's probably not that much more than, you know, what we would be talking about. So I just wanted to make sure that we were just being realistic about what we could accomplish.
But these
If
are
we
things,
were, I have a question. If we were to generate a lot of money from this, then we would be able to hire someone to manage it, right? Potentially, we would have enough money that we would be able to have someone part-time manage that.
I don't think so. I mean, I can check with Bill, but I know we wouldn't be able to use, I don't think we could use the TIF part of it for that, but maybe the developers match could be used to hire someone. Oh, I did check with Bill on one question that came up, and that was like, in Green Bay, they were selling their program by saying no tax dollars were levied for this art. And I checked with Bill, and he's like, not if we're using TIF funding. I wouldn't feel comfortable with that. That would be a stretch because they are, you know, they're property tax dollars. And then I also promised you guys that I would get you 2018 and 2020, just so you'd have at least a few years of like what the TIF incentives were for that year. Because it does, you know, it kind of fluctuates from year to year.
but these are things we'll work out, you know, as a subcommittee, and then present it to the Arts Committee as something that we would propose to the City Council as an ordinance.
I also want to mention that I've been working, I sent out some emails when I was in Colorado to different places that have programs like this. Indianapolis and Denver have responded to me. And I forwarded that on, I think, just to Haiti, Rob, and Christina. But they structure them a little bit differently. And one that I came across that was interesting in Memphis, they used it actually for like an artist's studio and residency. So they're used in a lot of different ways, the TIF funds. And I also discovered that Carmel, California first did this, I think in 1987. They were really innovative and did this really early on.
Cool. That's good that you found examples where they were also using TIF, because I think it's a little different than what some communities are doing. So that'll be a good example, Michelle.
Anything else you want to talk about?
Don't think so.
Are we ready to adjourn? Someone want to make a motion? Mike moves that we adjourn. We have a second?
Who seconded?
I don't think that was Mike.
No, it was.
It wasn't?
No, who was it?
Who was it?
I think it was an echo of Rob and somebody else's speakers
So
asking.
Rob made the motion. Rob, you second too?
Okay. We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you all for tuning in. And Abby, I guess the next time we'll meet is when we have some more designs for the Roman candle wall there.
Sounds good. I'm going to email the artist right now.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good
Bye,
night.
everybody. See ya.